I'm ready for the Q&A session, Tim, but let me join
Wonderful.
from my mobile. My laptop is going.
Yeah, I know you're running low. So let's go into Q&A sessions then. And one of the things Mark had said in chat is we might like to have you back also in the future to do kind of a more full run through there. And I'm sure that Madhu also has lots of materials that he could present, but let's go to questions. Again, the way to do those is Option Y on Mac or Alt Y on Windows. If you guys have any questions. And I know there was a lot. So I guess that one question would be questions on Mercury. There's Jeremy. Jeremy, go for it, sir.
Yeah, Tim, Vaddadi had, sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right, Vaddadi had mentioned that herbs were used in the refining process. And I don't recall seeing that step, and I'd like more information on maybe which herbs were used. Just herbs is a very broad term. There's lots of plants that can classify as herbs, and they contain a wide variety of different elements. And I'm curious if there's a specific element that's contained in a specific type of herb that's vital to this construction process that was passed down in these ancient texts.
Yeah, and Kavya, if you can answer that, Kavya, that'd be wonderful. Or Karthik may be able to answer it as well, because he's definitely working on the material science aspect of things. So.
Yes, Jeremy. Tim, let me take this question. Jeremy, the herbs I did not give you because if I go on giving you the list of herbs and the experiments which we have conducted, it's going to be a 2 to 3 hours long session. But let me put you in a very simple sense. We are going to take viable herbs. For example, we were taking, Tamarindus indica, right? We are going to take Indian gooseberry. We are going to get the extract of that, and then we are going to mix that extract with your material which we need to do: copper sulfate, zinc sulfate, aluminium, anything. I mean, iron sulfate. And then we are going to conduct a basic electronegativity concepts. Okay, we are going to do that, and then we are going to get nanomaterials out of it. So I can do the experiment with pure H2O as well. But then the process is not fast enough with pure water. So the herbs are basically acting as a catalyst, and the functional groups in herbs are aiding for the removal of, the negative ions from that. And then we are going to get pure metals out of it. We have done also with, buttermilk. We have done with cow milk. We will have done with buffalo milk. We have done with pure water. We have done with, NaCl solution. We have taken tulasi, right? Ocimum sanctum. We have taken Indian gooseberry. We have taken Azar dicta indica. We have taken Tamarindus indica. So with wide range of herbs we have done, and we have also published international research articles on the materials which we have developed using this technology.
Oh, thank you. That's some good information. Yeah, because I wanted more specifics. She had just mentioned herbs, and I was like, well, that could mean a lot. So yeah, it's good to know. And you believe that these are working as a catalyst. It's not something that's being extracted or used for those. The process, but I had another point about the copper nanomaterial that it looks like you were created, because there's some type of nanomaterial or two-dimensional material that's used in these the skin coatings or these Vimanas, and I thought that was interesting that you gave kind of a recipe for that. I'm gonna have to go back and dive deeper into that. Where can people find your website or more information, more of this technical information on the herbs and some of that stuff?
If anybody is interested, they can send an email to us. Kavya has our email, so we can send the technical details of it, papers we have published on that.
Yeah, and again, I believe I have links to all of that up on the website, but but Karthik and Madhu and Kavya, if I've missed any links, let me know. I'm happy to put more up for you, to more materials and research. And again, I think we'd definitely like to have you back on to elaborate more on these in the future. As you've said, you've got easily 2 or 3 hours worth of material, and in chat, people are really, really intrigued by this, and it is, to me, it's really interesting. When you
Yeah,
look
if there was ever an audience online that will sit through those 2 to 3 hours and absorb every bit of it, this is it. So
yeah, well, it intrigues me because I'm kind of a history buff too, right? When you take a look at the long term, I mean, human history stretches back what, tens, hundreds of thousands of years, and we know very little about that. But people weren't just sitting around, and in their own way, they were as innovative back then as we are today. So it's interesting to learn more about these things. So again, we've probably got about 20 minutes left in Q&A session, and it would be option Y or alt Y if you want to ask a question. And I think one of the big areas is probably mercury. I think that we've talked about that a lot, as well as purifying mercury. You mentioned that it was underneath the temples, and then Jeremy suggested, with our isotopes missing, to show that they might have been extracting a particular type. So there are a lot of bits and pieces to this.
yes, and also that process that he went through, that the 18-step process that he went through, it sounds like they were extracting a certain isotope of the mercury, which there's some, according to the legends, you need red mercury is what the Russians called it, and the Germans called it during World War II. Apparently, there's this whole controversy over whether red mercury was a real thing or not. It's widely denoted as like Cold War propaganda by the experts, the official, story of it. But
yeah. Let me go to David Hughes next. David has his hands up.
Oh yeah, there we go. This is very interesting, and when I'm listening to it, I'm reminded of in the 1980s when everyone was on a tear to find out the alchemy behind the varnish for a Stradivarius, and everyone was trying to gather up as many dragonfly wings as they could, and in the end, a few years ago, they find out that he basically, in a sense, just walked down to the Home Depot and picked up what was readily available and was a great master at it. So I started to think that when you're doing the research into how they treated this mercury, is there a possibility that we are limiting their travels to just India? Have we looked into some of the writings from China, for instance, that predated thousands of years, that maybe they had learned from them, and that might be a place where you could find some of the missing links, so to speak?
Yes, David, thank you for that. Yeah, probably this is where I think all the like-minded people have to come forward, form a group, and then work towards achieving it. This is the problem which we have faced, in working is, see, the 24 processes of purification of mercury said some of the herbs are not, or plants which are there, are not available in India. Okay, so probably they might be available in Australia, as you said, China, probably Japan, US, Europe, somewhere. So, we have to work together and then, form a common platform where if we can get that herbs and continue the purification technique, yeah, probably we can achieve your anti-gravity property of a mercury. So I'm not only talking about anti-gravity property of a mercury ion engines. That's okay, fine. But see, maybe there are some medicinal properties which will be enormous benefit to the population at large. We have some diseases where we don't have a cure for it. So probably when we do this, we can get the medicinal properties as well. So let me take this opportunity to invite all the people who are interested to work on ancient technology. We can form into a, I can say a band and then work together so that we can achieve. See, at the end of the day, the purpose of a man is to make the place where he live more sustainable in nature. We have to pass this beautiful earth which we have, the beautiful resources which we have, to the next generations, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. Let me jump in really quick. Pi in our chat room had asked, he wanted me to ask Kavya when the English translation of her book on the Vimana Shastra would be ready for purchase.
yes, we have already decoded it, and then we are going to officially publish the book in next 2 to 3 months of time. So Tim will keep you posted. So
Okay.
once we have done it, you can just inform the person.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and he's a regular attendee, so yeah, we'll just let him know. Okay, so let me go to Will Riken next. Will, thank you for waiting, sir. Oh, and I think Will just disappeared. You know what? I think there he is.
Okay. Here we are. Yeah, I had to find the audio. The format changed, and I'm not sure what happened. Okay, so what do you consider? You said that your materials are all nanomaterials. What do you consider to be? What size do you consider to be nanomaterials?
Yeah, hello, Will. See, the size which we are talking about, we have different sizes. The average particle size we are talking about is 25 nanometers. So we have the particles ranging from as small as 5 nanometers to as large as 50 nanometers.
Sorry, you just said
So, but majority of the
nanometers?
particles are in 25 nanometers range.
Okay, but you just said 5 nanometers. So you have 5 or 25?
No, it ranges from 5 to 50. So they are like, if I take 30 particles, 20 particles are in 25 nanometers, maybe 2 are in 5 nanometers and 8 are in 40 nanometers. So if I average all those things, so I'm telling you the mean value, the average particle size.
Yeah, well, that's what I want to know. I want to know what your range was. Okay, so you said that you're using herbs as a catalyst. So you didn't explain the process for the catalyst.
I didn't explain the process because
in what way are you using that process?
Yeah, see, that's what. For me to explain the process, it takes, the presentation becomes too technical. So maybe we can have some other day where I can present you the.
For me, I'm just fine. So you can explain it to me.
Yeah. Well, Will, if I could jump in, I think he's worried about time limitations. And then the other thing to keep in mind is, so Karthic is running on battery power, and so that's something I'm keeping in mind, is that he apparently there's an outage in his area, and so.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why he's not on video. So he's on battery power. Again, we have 15 minutes left. We'd love to have him back on in the future, but.
Okay, yeah, so I'd like to talk with you later offline about your catalyst.
Sure. I'm looking forward for it.
Yeah, and actually, let me jump in really quick. This is probably a good time to mention. So the APEC 24/7 channel. This is a WhatsApp chat group, and what I'm going to do is paste this. I'm going to paste the link. It's on our website, and I'm going to paste that link into chat as well. I'll put that in there right now. And Carl, would you like to go in terms of questions? There's the chat link for anyone who wants to join our APEC.
Is that link for also his papers? Because I don't see any links for his papers.
I believe those are in the links that I put up for Kavya. She sent me links to SRIVT as well as her own stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my apologies. Let me go to Carl next.
Hey, just thank you so much. Karthik, really quickly on the mercury process purification. Does the color of the mercury change at all during that process? Has that ever been mentioned, analogous to red mercury changes? Thank you.
See, as of such, the optical properties change has not been mentioned anywhere in any text. But when we have done the 8 purification process on that, we still see the mercury color has remained the same. So probably when we go further down, but then as such, I mean, see, we logically think there is this person who is applying this anti-gravity mercury to his feet and then he's flying. That's what they said. So literally flying is not we flying. I mean, probably by an aircraft powered by mercury. So as such, there is no specific mention of the change of the color of the mercury.
Thank you very
Wonderful.
much.
And thank you as well, Carl. Jeremy, would you like to go again, sir?
Yes, I have more questions from our live chat, including a $20 super chat from Esoteric Gold. Thank you for that contribution. He wants to know, did our guest ever find where mercury was radioactive or radioactive metals ever used? And or maybe a sweet substance used in the fuel. That was the word sweet.
Yeah, see, all the mercury purification which we have done, we have checked for radioactivity, and it's not radioactive at all. It was done by Baba Atomic Research Center, which it's a defense organization which deals with radioactive materials and nuclear power plants. So we have given the mercury which we have developed to them, and they have certified that the mercury which we have done, that 8 steps of purification, is entirely non-radioactive. This one. And second thing, yeah, as I told, the mercury attains an anti-gravity property after 18 steps of purification, where we have only achieved 8 steps. So probably when it comes to 18 steps of purification, that's what, when I tell it gets an anti-gravity property, it does not, that doesn't mean if I take this mercury, apply it on the surface of a pen, the pen floats. So probably what they mean is that mercury now is becoming a fuel which can propel an aircraft or a rocket, whatever it is. So that is what they probably mean to say, that mercury is becoming anti-gravity in nature. So probably it became a fuel with maybe the properties of a solid propellant which we are using today.
Thank you. And also I had a question. Michael Perron wants to know, what is the purification process that makes the mercury solid at room temperature?
So he's basically asking a technical know-how. Anyhow, see, there are the specific herbs. Okay, I have given in my presentation that the process which includes is, rubbing the mercury with the herbs, then leaving it at room temperature for a certain time. And then again, take the second herb, you again rub it with that herb, leave it again for certain time. So this is the process which we do. So the purification predominantly involves the herbs which we use. So as of now, it's a technical know-how and a patented process. So I cannot tell what herbs, but yeah, I can definitely tell that this is what is done.
So it's proprietary. Okay.
Well, proprietary and also highly technical, right? And so probably not appropriate for the for this conference with 10 minutes left. But Jeremy, did you have any other questions?
No, that was it, man. Thanks. Thank you so much.
Oh, and there's Jeremiah Pop. Sir, go for it.
Yeah, I just figured, well, we're on the topic before we run out of time. I wanted to mention a couple of things that are quite relevant, very exciting stuff. First off, Nano Copper. Besides its extraordinary usefulness in almost all of this research for everything from banderic kind of stuff to the ARV, if you ever happen to get your hands on one of the original copies of McCandlish's ARV drawing, you'll see on the bottom right corner a description of what the plates are made of, and specifically 15 micron size nano copper spheres were used to coat those surfaces of disks and also to slightly separate those particulates out so that you get this tunneling effect going through the potting agent, which in that case was, we believe, some kind of quartz, likely a quartz containing carbon inclusions, which would act as an electron source. So first thing to know is nanomercury, or excuse me, nano copper. Nano copper can drastically increase the surface area on a charge holding plate in a high voltage circuit and give you tremendously amplified effects. The second one I wanted to mention is about the mercury itself in terms of different colors of mercury that we see under different energetic states. Ordinary mercury with nothing special done to it, when you just simply stir it around inside of a vacuum environment, will generate a blue glow, not only against the glass, but also against the atmosphere left inside. It actually generates hundreds to thousands of volts by stirring it at just 100 RPMs or so by hand. And this is fascinating to actually see. I took it in a dark room, small vial filled with vacuum mercury, and spun it, and it generated light. I found another paper that's a test on impulsing mercury against a vial, and it turns out that at a very high energy level, when it loses 3 electrons or more, it generates red photons. For some particular reason, the energy band gap jump when the electrons come to fill back in that gap will produce a red light instead of a blue light. And so we've seen mercury glow red under high energy impulse conditions, which wouldn't be surprising to think that maybe red mercury may not in fact be a special element or a special type of mercury, but could just be mercury highly ionized, as it does generate these characteristically colored photons. So that's just before we wanted to go, I wanted to throw those things out there because it is quite valid to what's been presented so far. And if people were wondering, how does this tie into alternative propulsion? This is how.
Yes, high energy, you hit it with high energies and it glows red. That is key stuff, man. That might explain it quite well. And the purification process, because you need super pure mercury to lower the dampening within the substrate.
And now, let me see. I was going to ask if Jeremiah had any questions. It looks like he just muted himself again. So we've got about 7 minutes left. Does anyone else have any questions for Karthik or Kavya? And again, you can raise your hand in chat, or actually, Carl had asked. Let me see. He's curious if there's any notion of the bell inside of the Vimana, vortices of electrified mercury.
Jeremiah?
If you don't mind me answering, yeah, I can tell you that when we tested mercury circulation and crashed mercury into itself, it does release a huge amount of charge. Mercury has a tendency at room temperature as a liquid state to naturally produce a massive quantity of ions. In general, if you're looking at a liquid mercury pool just sitting there on the table, it's mostly ionized and it's constantly shooting electrons back and forth between its various molecules. So it doesn't like to hold on to its valence electrons, and they're highly mobile. So this is one of those interesting things to think about, that if you just simply create turbulence within mercury, you'll get these kinds of voltages. If you control that turbulence in a very specific singular direction, you can extract the electrical differential from it. So there is a big energy production possibility using mercury, if that's what you were asking, Carl. A Mercury vortex would be one way to crash the mercury against itself, or to get an asymmetric acceleration in order to cause these kinds of effects, to specifically about the Mercury vortex engines of Vimana.
Let me go to actually, let me go to Mark really quick, because Mark is holding up a bottle of mercury, and I could tell he's itchy to show it off. Mark, is that a cologne bottle? You don't spray them?
No, it's actually a mercury bottle. And this is just 1 pound of it. Jeremiah over there has 22 pounds of mercury.
Maybe.
That's what you told me. I don't know. It's somewhere.
It's a bigger. I think it might be actually more than that. Volumetrically, 3.5 by 7 inches vial. I guess I would calculate.
That's a lot of mercury. Yeah.
It takes 12 pounds to lift it. I keep it in a double confined container, air sealed, because it scares the shit out of me. But it's enough to run an engine.
Yeah. Another thing to mention, Jeremiah, thanks for bringing that up earlier. I was actually gonna.
I know you were going to do Sony, didn't you?
I was actually going to call him out to say that, because he was the one who discovered that very interesting fact. Mercury can glow red. So it's not like a different element or anything. Also, another thing, interesting thing about mercury is it has a lot of free electrons. And if you need to make the hull of the craft negative, to create these effects, then the mercury would go positive. One of the effects of that is possibly turning it into gold. Now, this would be an unwanted side effect. The gold would be a byproduct and it would be trash. It would be bad mercury. And is there any connection, as a question for Kavya and the other presenter, is there any connection between these Vimana craft and gold? Like, were they handing out gold?
Yes, sir. Actually, there are descriptions of the Vimana manufacturing materials. In the manufacturing materials, there are uses of silver, gold also, and even other texts, not Vimana Shastra, but other texts also mention the procedure how to create gold through mercury by using mercury.
Yes. But basically, mercury is element 80. Mercury is element 80 and gold is 79. So if you were to positively charge it, meaning we're removing electrons, eventually you might turn a proton into electrons or something like that, and boom, you got gold instead of mercury.
There are procedures by using, again, that in those procedures also, I think there are herbs also used in that procedure. There are many such descriptions. Even in our, for example, I have mentioned to you that festivals are also signs, sir. So, for example, one of the festival, there are like many stories as per the tradition. But this is not religion. In the stories, what it says is that there are monies, means crystals which can turn these anything into gold or anything into silver, like that. There are some particular crystals for that, and there are many such crystals. For Lord Krishna is very famous, so there is a story in his one of the festival, and there are many such stories, sir. They use crystals and herbs also. Through mercury also they create gold. They can make anything into gold.
Okay, thank you very much.
Wonderful, thank you. So let me go to Harold really quick, and then Kishley, if we have time. We've only got a couple of minutes left. Go ahead, Harold.
Yes, one question I have, is that, is there any mathematical theory, that they have explored the ancient texts and translated to mathematical theory and molecular and atomic orientation on how mercury, or one material can produce anti-gravity waves? Have any physicists or mathematicians have done it?
Thank you, Harold, for that question. See, that's what everything which we have in ancient texts is in a very secretive language, as you can see, right? It has taken us a couple of years to decode and get the materialistic meaning of what the text means. So probably somebody might have developed a mathematical interpretation or chemical kinematics. Maybe they would have told, but we don't have the knowledge of, decoding it. That's the biggest problem we have today. So, but as such, you can see that now that we have scientific tools and the science has advanced a lot, probably we can run a simulation. If we have that herbs, we can put in the input, we can give the herbs, and then we can see what kind of chemical kinematics is happening first to attain an anti-gravity property. So probably that's what, see, when I say anti-gravity property, please do not take in a literal sense. Probably they are meaning that mercury can be used as a fuel to propel an aircraft or rocket or whatever it is, right? So see, today we are using ADN for solid propellant, ammonium dinitride. So probably when I say ADN, if I say ADN is anti-gravity, that doesn't make sense. I mean, probably what they mean by anti-gravity is they can use it as a fuel to attain the escape velocity, which is probably 11.2 kilometers per second for the Earth gravitational field. So they can attain that escape velocity. So mercury gets converted into a fuel which can attain that much of thrust.
Are you saying a propellant can be?
Yeah, it might be a propellant.
Okay, thank you. And after listening to this conversation, I regret that in 2016 I gave away a gallon of mercury. Now I have big regrets. Thank you.
And thank you as well, Harold. Okay, so I think we are just about out of time. So let me do this. What I want to do here is I want to put this on gallery view, and we have a couple of people that we need to give an enormous applause to. Let's applaud Kavya Vaddadi, Karthic Aamanchi, and of course, Madhu Valluri. So all three of you, wonderful presentations and incredible
Thank you, sir.
incredible learning and knowledge. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for staying up so late because it's 2 a.m. your time. And I'd also like to thank Kishle Kisu for doing the introduction as well.
Thank you, Tim. It's a wonderful experience I had sharing knowledge with like-minded people across the globe. So hopefully we'll work together to make this a sustainable place for our future generations.
Thank you again.